When you have everything, wealth, fame, power, what's left to desire? Genuine love, real kindness. But what happens when the world only sees your money? This is the story of Tina, a billionaire who disguises as a homeless girl to test humanity. Will anyone help her or even love her without expecting anything in return? The answer will shock you. So sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn. This story will keep you watching till the very end. And if you're tuning in for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. In a 30-story penthouse in Banana Island, from the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sprawling city of Lagos glittered below like a restless ocean of lights, cars, and voices. But Tina Okechukwu stood still, motionless, staring into the night like someone trapped in a golden cage. She was dressed in silk, the kind flown in from Italy. Her heels were hand-stitched from Spain. A Rolex shimmered on her wrist. Diamonds danced around her neck like stars. And yet her soul felt naked, alone, empty. Tina was only 27, but already her name was whispered with awe across the continent. She was the only child of Chief Emeka Okechukwu, a business mogul and oil tycoon with powerful political ties. Her father had given her everything: wealth, power, privilege. But Tina had never been the type to lean on a man's name. By the age of 22, she had made her own name. Tina was a self-made billionaire, one of the first Nigerians to invest in Bitcoin when it was just 50 cents per coin. She had purchased over 10,000 coins in university. Her father had laughed at the time, calling it digital nonsense, but now those coins were worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She became an icon. Her face adorned Forbes covers. Her name trended on social media. Her voice was invited to speak at summits across the world. When she posted a photo, it got over 2 million likes in an hour. When she walked into a room, people stood. And yet, in all the noise and worship, she felt unseen. They loved her money. They loved her power. But did anyone love her? The real her? That question haunted her like a shadow that never left, even in the light. She had dated senators, tech moguls, even a prince from Dubai. But every man eventually wanted something: control, exposure, a stake in her empire. Not one of them had ever asked, "Tina, how do you feel?" She stepped away from the glass and sat on the edge of her bed. Her heart ached. Tears welled in her eyes. The room was large enough to hold a small orchestra, yet it felt suffocating. "I need to know," she whispered. She rose slowly, walked to her dressing mirror, and studied her reflection. She was beautiful. Her skin glowed with intentional care. Her eyes, framed with lashes and gloss, looked like they had never seen pain. But Tina knew pain, and now she wanted to feel something real. Her hands trembled as she reached for her phone. She scrolled past pictures of private chats, meetings with presidents, and dinner with celebrities. None of it mattered tonight. Tonight, Tina wanted truth, and she was ready to go looking for it, even if she had to become unrecognizable to find it. She dialed a number. "Angela," she said to her personal assistant, "clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks. No meetings, no interviews, no cameras. Tell everyone I'm traveling for a private retreat." Angela paused. "Yes, Ma. Should I notify your father?" "No," Tina said, her voice sharp. "No one must know." She hung up. By dawn, she had changed. Gone were the expensive weaves, the designer bags, the gold-plated phone. She stood in front of her full-length mirror, wearing a faded skirt, a torn t-shirt, and a scarf tied over uncombed hair. She looked unkempt, like someone who had been forgotten by life, exactly the way she wanted. From her private safe, she took only 5,000 naira, enough to buy sachet water and maybe a plate of rice. Then she slipped out of the house using the back entrance. The guards didn't even recognize her. By the time the sun rose over Lagos that morning, a new homeless girl was walking the streets of Alaba International Market. No one knew her name. No one knew her worth. And that was exactly how she wanted it. For the first time in her life, Tina Okechukwu, billionaire, heiress, tech genius, was about to discover what the world truly looked like when no one had anything to gain from loving you. The first morning in Alaba International Market. It was just past 8 a.m., and already the air was thick with the sounds of shouting traders, honking buses, and the rumble of danfos weaving recklessly through narrow paths. Tina stood at the edge of the market watching. She looked nothing like the woman who had graced international summits and dined with presidents. Her skirt clung to her legs with dust. Her shirt hung loosely, stained and torn at the shoulder. Her lips were dry. Her eyes, usually lined with luxury eyeliner, were bare and wide, quietly scanning a world she had only ever seen from behind a car window. Here, no one bowed to her. No one said, "Good morning, Ma." In fact, no one even noticed her. She took a step into the crowd, and in that moment, it was as if the world turned its back. She reached out timidly to a fruit vendor, a woman slicing pawpaw with one hand and collecting naira with the other. "Please," Tina said, her voice almost a whisper. "I haven't eaten since yesterday. Just one slice." The woman didn't even look at her. "Ah, beg shift. You dey scare customer." Tina stepped back, startled. She moved toward a group of mechanics gathered by a makeshift shed, laughing over plates of amala. "Please, anything. I can clean, sweep." "Madam," one of them barked, "go carry your madness somewhere else." They laughed. They laughed. She turned and stumbled, away humiliated. Her heart beat rapidly, not from fear, but from pain. This was what it felt like to be seen as worthless. As she moved further into the market, the insults grew colder, crueler. A woman selling a kara near the roadside flared at her. "This one way de waka anyhow. Nah, shawo you be?" Tina flinched. Another man hissed, "You know fine Seth. At least fine girls they beg with respect." No one knew she had over $200 million in her crypto wallet. But that wasn't the point. This was her test, and the world was failing it miserably. Hours passed. Her stomach growled. Her legs ached. She had no phone, no backup, no help. She was truly alone. The only thing she had was a 500 naira note and a sachet of pure water clenched in her palm like it was life itself. By afternoon, the sun had turned cruel. Her scarf was soaked with sweat. Her slippers had worn thin from walking. She found a little shade near a kiosk and sat on the floor. Dust rose around her. A boy selling recharge cards stepped on her hand and didn't apologize. She was invisible. She wasn't sure how long she sat there before her eyes began to blur. Her vision dimmed from hunger and heat. Her body, once pampered with spa oils and exotic baths, was now trembling with exhaustion. Then it happened. A woman carrying a tray of rice passed by. The smell struck Tina like lightning, jolting, irresistible. She stood up and approached. "Auntie, please. I don't want much, just small rice. I'll wash plate. The woman turned. "You dey craze? Wet'n be this one. You want use pity chop my food? Get away." Before Tina could move, the woman shoved her. Tina stumbled backward, legs weak, heart racing, and fell, flat, on the dirt. Her head hit the edge of the pavement. Laughter erupted from nearby passersby. "She don't faint. Na drama she dey act." One man threw a coin at her head and laughed. Another mimicked her fall. But then, through the blur, through the heat, through the sea of mockery, a shadow moved closer. A soft voice cut through the noise. "Hey, are you okay?" Tina looked up. Through her watery eyes, she saw a young man wearing a faded blue t-shirt soaked with sweat. His skin was sun-darkened, his fingers rough from labor. Behind him, a wooden wheelbarrow leaned against a fence. He wasn't rich. He didn't smell like perfume, but his eyes were kind. And that was the first kindness Tina had received all day. She tried to speak, but couldn't. Her lips trembled. The man gently helped her up. "I saw how they pushed you, don't mind them. Lagos can be wicked." He dusted her off with his own shirt. "My name is Obi," he said. "You look like you haven't eaten in days." Tina barely managed a nod. Obi reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled 100 naira note. He looked at the plate of rice he had just bought for himself and hesitated. Then, without another word, he handed it to her. "Please eat," he said. "I'll be fine." Tina blinked. "Why?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Why are you helping me?" Obi gave a tired smile. "Because someone should, that's all." Tina looked at the plate. Her hands shook as she held it. She had been mocked, pushed, insulted. And now, for the first time in her life as a homeless girl, someone had shown her real, unfiltered kindness. Tears rolled down her cheek. She sat beside Obi and ate, not like a billionaire, but like a starving soul. And as the market noise faded in the background, she knew. This man might just be the answer to the question that brought her here. The afternoon heat was slowly dying, but Tina's heart had just begun to warm. She sat beside Obi on a wooden bench outside a small buka named Mama Sweet's local kitchen, still holding the empty plate of rice he had given her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She glanced sideways at him. His shirt was torn at the collar, his slippers mismatched. His palms were calloused, and sweat had carved deep lines in his forehead. His eyes held something rare: peace, kindness. Obi looked at her again. "I don't know what brought you here," he said softly, "but if you need food again tomorrow, I'll be here by 11. Tina's heart skipped. Nobody had ever cared enough to offer her something without asking for anything in return. She wasn't used to this, not without cameras, not without expectations, not without masks. She wanted to ask him why he cared, why he saw her, but the words got stuck in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded. "Thank you." That night, Tina didn't sleep on silk sheets or Egyptian cotton. She curled up behind a locked stall in a corner of Alaba Market, resting her head on her nylon bag and hugging her knees against the cold. The ground was hard. The noise was constant. Mosquitoes fed on her arms without mercy. And yet, her heart was full, because for the first time in a long time, she wasn't pretending. The next day, by 10:55 a.m., Tina was already sitting on the same wooden bench outside Mama Sweet's, nervously picking at her fingers. Her scarf was now dustier than before. Her feet were sore, but her eyes were alive with quiet hope. Then she saw him, Obi, walking through the market, pushing a rusty wheelbarrow that creaked with every movement. He had a small black nylon bag in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. When he saw her, he smiled. And for some reason, that smile felt more valuable than all the Rolexes and Range Rovers she had ever owned. "I bought beans and plantain today," Obi said as he sat. "Figured maybe you'd be tired of rice." Tina laughed. It was the first time in days. "I'm not picky," she replied. They shared the meal, half and half. Obi always gave her the bigger portion, claiming, "I have more flesh to burn." And Tina, who once dined with kings, now ate beans by the roadside and felt richer for it. Over the next few days, they fell into a quiet rhythm. Obi never asked questions. He never pushed. He only showed up. Every morning, every lunch break, every evening, with either a plate of food or a warm word. "Why are you doing this?" she finally asked one evening as they sat under a leaking umbrella beside a drainage canal. Obi leaned back. His face darkened slightly, but not with anger, more like old pain rising to the surface. "You really want to know?" he asked. Tina nodded slowly. "Please." He looked away for a long moment, then motioned for her to follow him. They walked through the winding back streets of Ajagunle, where rusted zinc houses leaned like they were tired of holding up pain. Children played with worn-out slippers, chickens ran across narrow paths, and the air smelled of boiling beans and burning firewood. Finally, they stopped at a small, rusted gate. "This is where I live," Obi said, unlocking the latch. The compound was quiet. A half-broken tap dripped lazily in one corner. From a window nearby, a soft voice called out, "Daddy!" A little girl, about 7 years old, ran out barefoot and flung her arms around Obi. Her hair was tied with colorful beads. Her smile could melt iron. Tina's heart caught. "This is my daughter, Jessica," Obi said, lifting the girl up. Jessica looked at Tina curiously. "Daddy, is this my new mummy?" The words stung. Tina's lips parted, but she couldn't speak. She looked at Obi. He sighed, putting Jessica down. "Not yet, my love, but she's our friend." Inside the one-room apartment, there were no chairs, just one mattress, a fan with no blades, and a black and white photo of a woman on the wall. "That's her," Obi said quietly, pointing to the photo. "Fola, my wife." He sat down on the edge of the bed and took a breath that seemed to come from the bottom of his soul. She used to love me, he began, when I had a job, when I worked in the oil sector. I got her a car when Jessica was born, her push gift. We were happy, until I lost everything. Tina sat beside him, eyes wide. Obi stared ahead. My friends disappeared. My savings dried up. Rent expired. I begged her to let me sell the car to start a business, to at least try. But she said she wasn't born to suffer. He looked down. She left, took the car, left me with Jessica. Silence. Raw, thick. I haven't trusted a woman since, Obi whispered. I just live for this little girl now. Tina's eyes filled with tears. She bit her lip to stop the sob rising in her throat. Jessica returned from the corner where she had been drawing in the dirt. Auntie, she said, will you come back tomorrow? Tina looked at her, then at Obi. I will, she whispered. And she meant it. It had been nearly a week since Tina first met Obi. But now the market knew her. Not by name, not by story, just by the label they slapped on her with laughter. Obi's beggar wife. Each morning as she walked through the rusted maze of Alaba International Market to meet Obi at Mama Sweet's buka, voices followed her like thorns. Is this how much Obi loves poverty? A wheelbarrow man marrying a homeless girl with no identity? He must be crazy to get such a liability into his life. The words stung, but Tina swallowed her pride like Colgari. This was the reality she came to see. The pain of the poor, the mockery, the dehumanization. And now she wasn't just seeing it, she was feeling it. But she kept coming back. And every day, Obi waited for her. One afternoon, she arrived early and found Obi already seated, holding a steaming plate of fufu and a goosey. I know it's messy, he grinned, but it's my favorite. Tina laughed. Then I'll try it. She dipped her fingers in the water bowl and began to eat beside him. It was messy. It was spicy. It was perfect. As they ate, Obi glanced sideways. You know, I never asked your name. Tina hesitated. 1,000 names danced in her mind. Her full legal name, her press name, the alias she used for hotel bookings. She finally said, Amma. Obi nodded, accepting it without question. Amma suits you, he said. Soft name, but you're strong. I see it in how you survive. That moment sat like warm light in Tina's chest. She had been called queen, boss lady, crypto witch, and Africa's youngest billionaire. But strong, that felt the most real. That evening, as the sky turned deep orange and the call to prayer echoed in the distance, Tina made a bold decision. She told Obi, I want to cook for you. Obi blinked. You want to what? I said, let me cook for you and Jessica. Obi scratched his head. I don't have much at home, Amma. Just one gas stove and no proper pots. I'll make it work, she smiled. He handed her 1,000 naira hesitantly, but she gently pushed it back. I'll use mine. Where do you get money from? He asked, narrowing his eyes playfully. You've never begged. I save from little tips I get, she lied smoothly. I use it wisely. Obi didn't press further. He just nodded and gave her his trust. The cooking was chaotic. The fire smoked, the water ran late. The tomatoes had more seeds than flesh. But by 7 p.m., the zinc kitchen in Obi's one-room home smelled like heaven. Jessica clapped when she saw the food. Jollof rice, she squealed, and fried plantain. Daddy, I love Auntie Amma. They sat on the floor and ate with their hands. Jessica giggled. Obi chuckled. Tina laughed, real laughter, the kind that fills empty spaces inside your soul. But just as Tina was beginning to settle into the warmth, a storm brewed outside. That night, as she walked back to the spot where she usually slept behind a locked stall, 2 market women followed her at a distance. One of them, Mama Chinyere, was known for her sharp tongue and sharper eyes. I swear that girl no be normal poor person, she whispered. She too clean. I dey talk 'em since, the other added. Her English no be anyhow English. She dey behave like person we come from Aso Rock. They weren't the only ones watching. The buka owner, Mama Sweet, had started glancing at Tina with suspicion. She'd noticed how Tina never asked for food like the others, how she always looked, composed even in dirt. And now rumors were spreading. Maybe she be thief way run from police. Maybe na mad woman way regain small sense. Or na ritualist they use her monitor obi life. By morning it was no longer just whispers. One of the traders boldly called out, Obi, make sure say them no use you do spiritual experiment, oh. But Obi didn't respond. He kept his head high, wheeling his cart with quiet pride. And when he saw Tina at their usual spot, he smiled like nothing else mattered. Later that day, Tina walked with Obi to buy oranges from a roadside hawker. As they walked, Tina noticed something. A young boy tripped and spilled his tray of boiled eggs onto the ground. Traders laughed. No one helped. But Obi rushed over, helped him gather the eggs, and gave him 200 naira. Tina watched silently, her eyes stinging. You always help people, she said softly. Obi shrugged. It's just the right thing to do. She looked at him and said the words carefully, like laying a fragile truth on the table. You're the first person in my life who's been kind to me, without knowing what I have. Obi didn't say anything. He just looked at her, and in that look there was something electric, real, undeniable. But then Jessica ran up, shouting joyfully, Mummy Ama! Mummy Ama! Tina froze. Obi turned to his daughter. Don't call her that. She's not your mummy. Jessica frowned. But she loves me. She cooks. She tucks me in. Tina crouched and took Jessica's hands. I may not be your mummy, she whispered, voice trembling. But I promise you, you will never be hungry again. Obi watched them, his heart at war. Tina's presence was shaking the foundations of everything he had carefully walled off. And he didn't know whether to hold on tighter or run. The rain began without warning, thin at first, just a drizzle teasing the rusted rooftops of Ajagunle, but then it poured like the heavens had been holding back their own grief and could no longer bear it. Tina and Obi were inside the cramped room he called home. Jessica had already fallen asleep, curled up under a worn blanket on the mattress, her tiny arms wrapped around an old teddy bear with one eye missing. Obi stood by the window watching the rain. Tina sat on a wooden stool, her heart pounding. For days now, she had been trying to hold back something inside her, a storm of her own. She looked at Obi, so calm yet wounded, so quiet yet so full of pain, and she couldn't take it anymore. Obi, she began softly, please tell me everything. Tell me what happened with your wife. Obi didn't turn around. His hands were in his pockets, his shoulders stiff. For a long moment, all she could hear was the rain and the distant blare of a Danfo horn in the street. Then slowly, Obi turned to face her. His eyes looked tired, but there was no anger, only memories. I met Fola at university, he said, voice barely above a whisper. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, confident, sharp, and she made me feel like I could conquer the world. Tina leaned forward, listening. We dated for 4 years. Got married a year after I got my job with the oil company. Life was good. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. I gave her everything she asked for. Bought her a car when Jessica was born. Took her to Dubai for our anniversary. I even started building a house for her family. He paused, swallowed. Then it all crashed. Tina's chest tightened. They laid off over 70 staff. My department was dissolved overnight. I came home with my letter and a smile, thinking she'd hold my hand and say, we'll survive this. But instead, she asked me what I did to deserve it. He sat down on the floor, back against the wall, eyes far away. I begged her. I told her I'd start a small business. I wanted to sell the car so we could pay rent and move into something modest. But she screamed at me, told me she didn't marry a failure, said she wasn't born to suffer. Tina blinked back tears. Obi's voice broke. She packed her bags, took the car, left Jessica, just like that. She blocked me, told her family I was abusive. They believed her. My friends disappeared too. Nobody wanted to associate with a broke man with a child. Silence. I slept in markets, on benches, carried loads just to feed my daughter. It's been 3 years now. No word from her. Jessica still thinks her mother will come back one day. Tina covered her mouth. A tear slipped down her cheek. Obi looked at her gently. So, now you understand why I help people. I know what it feels like to be invisible, to be judged. And I guess somehow, I saw that same pain in your eyes. Tina's lips parted, but words refused to come. She wanted to tell him everything, who she really was. That she'd owned more homes than she could count. That she had a driver who once flew her to a fashion show in Paris because she didn't want to sit in Lagos traffic. But how could she? Would he believe her? Would he forgive her? Would it ruin this fragile bond they had built? Tina looked down. Her voice came out like a whisper. Obi, do you ever feel like the world doesn't really know who you are? Like you're just playing a role every single day, and nobody sees the real you? Obi's eyes met hers. All the time, he said. Tina's chest trembled. Then maybe we're not so different, she whispered. The rain continued to fall into the night. As Tina prepared to leave, Jessica stirred. Mummy, Amma, she called out sleepily. Tina froze, her hand still on the doorknob. Yes, baby, she replied gently. Will you be here tomorrow morning? The girl asked, rubbing her eyes. Tina nodded. I promise. Obi walked her to the edge of the street. The puddles splashed beneath their feet. A generator hummed nearby. Everything was drenched, yet the silence between them was warmer than the weather. Before she stepped into the shadows, Obi stopped her. Wait, she turned. I never said thank you for cooking, for making Jessica laugh again, for making this place feel like a home. Tina smiled. And I never said thank you for seeing me when no one else did. For a moment, they stood like that, two broken people holding something whole between them. Then she disappeared into the night, her scarf soaked with rain. But inside, she was burning with a new question. How long can I keep this lie alive? In Alaba International Market, life had resumed its chaotic rhythm, shouting traders, customers negotiating. But something was different. Whispers were getting louder. At first, it was harmless gossip. That beggar girl way dey follow Obi. She find too much a beg. Her English no be here she dey speak like person way finish university for abroad. Or is she running from something? But that morning, the whisper took a dangerous turn. At a printing shop near the market's edge, a glossy magazine page had been carelessly taped to the wall. It was an old edition of Forbes' Africa Women in Tech, featuring the top 5 young African billionaires changing the digital space. Third on the list was Tina Okechukwu. The photo showed her in a fitted white suit, sitting confidently on the edge of a desk, smiling with purpose. Few noticed it at first, but Mama Chinyere did. She leaned in, squinted, then frowned. The face was familiar. Not because she'd ever met Tina, but because she'd seen Amma, Obi's so-called beggar wife, too many times to ignore the resemblance. Meanwhile, Tina had returned to Obi's home early that morning. She came carrying a small polythene bag filled with bread, sachet milk, and sugar. Obi, half asleep, smiled when he saw her. You're becoming more predictable than the sun, he joked. I prefer the word consistent, she replied. They both laughed softly, the kind of laugh only two people who had suffered deeply could share. Jessica came running out, her hair uncombed and her eyes still heavy with sleep. Mummy Amma, Tina lifted her in a hug. How's my angel? The little girl nodded. I had a dream. You cooked stew and we lived in a big house with a garden. Tina froze for a second. Obi chuckled. Don't mind her. Her dreams are usually bigger than our budget. Tina smiled, but her heart ached. Because that was her world. Big houses, gardens, security gates, and she had lied to this child. Later that afternoon, as Obi pushed his wheelbarrow across the market, a trader called out, Obi, you go international now, oh! Obi paused. Wait and happen. Come see your wife for magazine here. Obi laughed, assuming it was another mockery. But when he walked over and saw the image, he froze. He stared. Hard. The woman on the page had smooth skin, perfect hair, and wore a tailored suit. But there was no mistaking those eyes. It was her. Amma. Tina. The woman he had fed, sheltered, trusted. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked home. Fast. Tina was sitting on the floor helping Jessica plait her doll's hair when Obi stormed in. His face was unreadable. Not anger, not confusion, just silence. He dropped the wheelbarrow handle and stood in the doorway. Tina looked up. "You're back early. Are you okay?" He stepped forward slowly. "Amma? What's your real name?" The question hit her like a whip. Tina froze. Jessica looked up too. "Daddy?" Obi's voice was firm now. "I said, what is your name?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Obi tossed the magazine page on the ground. Jessica picked it up. "Daddy, this is Mummy." Tina swallowed hard. "I wanted to tell you," she whispered. "I was going to tell you soon, I swear." Obi looked away, his jaw tightening. "So everything, the cooking, the tears, was that acting too?" "No," she cried. "Obi, please, listen to me." "You lied," he cut her off. "You came here with a script." "No, I came with a broken heart," she said, rising to her feet. "I came because I was tired of being loved for the wrong reasons. I wanted to find something real. And I did. With you. With her." She pointed to Jessica, who was now holding the magazine with confusion in her eyes. "I never expected this," Tina continued. "I didn't know I'd fall in love with your world, with your strength, your kindness, with you." Obi stared at her for a long, heavy second. Then he said quietly, "You should go." "Obi, please." He turned away. "Please." Jessica ran up to her. "Mummy Amma, where are you going?" Tina knelt and hugged her tight, trying not to break. "I'll be back," she whispered. "I promise." And then she left, heart shattered, eyes burning, soul exposed. Outside, the market buzzed. People were already murmuring about the mystery girl who had turned out to be a billionaire in disguise. Some admired her, some mocked Obi, others just stared. But Tina didn't care anymore. She had played her game and lost, or so she thought, because she didn't know that the next 24 hours would change everything. Forever. Obi didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window, staring at nothing, watching the flicker of candlelight as the power in Ajagunle went out again. His thoughts were louder than the generators outside. She lied. That was the only thing that his pride wanted to remember. But his heart, it kept whispering other truths. She fed Jessica. She laughed with us. She slept on the floor. She gave when she had nothing to prove. But still, how could someone with so much walk into their poverty without warning? How could she pretend? He looked over at Jessica. She hadn't eaten all day. She hadn't even spoken. She sat curled on the mattress, holding the magazine photo in her hands, whispering, "Mummy Amma will come back. I know it." Obi's chest ached. He had survived heartbreak before, but this one felt different. This one mattered. The next morning, the market was on fire with gossip. "Obi chased billionaire woman Komat. See him life. If na me, I go use that opportunity hammer. She even fined past governor's daughter Seth." Obi kept his head low as he pushed his barrow. But every whisper cut deeper than the last. By noon, he couldn't take it. He turned back home. Jessica was still in the same spot. The moment she saw him, she ran up and hugged him tightly. "Daddy, I'm hungry," she whispered. Obi hugged her back and buried his face into her neck. "I'm sorry, my angel." Meanwhile, Tina sat inside her pennant house, alone, dressed in a silk robe surrounded by gold chandeliers and polished marble floors. She had never felt poorer. Her phone buzzed, calls from CNN, Arise News, social media managers begging her to address the rumors. She turned everything off. She didn't care about her brand or trending hashtags. She cared about the man and the little girl who saw her before the world did. Then she looked up and smiled faintly. "I need to go back." At exactly 4 p.m., a small convoy of black SUVs pulled into the market. People rushed out, jaws dropping, some running to take photos. 2 tall security men opened the door of the lead car. And Tina stepped out. Not as a ma, not as a beggar, but as Tina Okechukwu, billionaire, philanthropist, and daughter of one of Nigeria's wealthiest families. Dressed in a simple but elegant red gown, no makeup, her natural hair tied in a bun, she walked through the stunned crowd, stopping in front of Mama Sweet's buka. People murmured. "Mama Sweet," she said, looking the woman in the eye. "Remember the girl you chased away for being dirty?" Mama Sweet swallowed hard. Tina reached into her handbag and handed her a check for 2 million naira. "For every hungry girl you won't turn away again." Gasps rippled through the crowd. She moved to the fruit seller, who once ignored her cry for food. She gave him $5,000. To the woman who once called her a mad girl, 3 million. "Naira, I'm not doing this for show," Tina said to the crowd. "I came here in disguise to see if people still love the poor, if they still show kindness without reason." And only one person did. She turned, the crowd parted. Obi stood at the end of the path, stunned, Jessica at his side. Tina walked to them slowly. "I'm sorry I lied to you," she said, trembling. "I should have told you who I was. But I was scared. Scared of ruining what we had. Scared you'd treat me like everyone else did." Obi said nothing. Jessica pulled Tina's hand. "I told you she would come back, Daddy." Tina knelt to Jessica's level and cupped her face. "I meant it when I said you won't suffer again. And I meant it when I told you I love you." She looked up at Obi. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today, but please let me show you what real love looks like from a woman who's tasted the fake side of life and chose your world instead." Obi's jaw clenched. He stepped forward, slowly. "Tina," he said, "I don't care if you have 5 naira or 5 billion naira. What I saw in you wasn't the money." He turned to Jessica. "She calls you mommy because you earned it." Then looking back at Tina, "If you'll still have us, not for pity, not for guilt, but for real, then let's go home, together." The crowd erupted in cheers. Some clapped, some wept. Phones flashed, but Tina only saw him. "Yes," she whispered, "let's go home." They didn't go to the zinc house. They went to Banana Island. Tina opened the gate, and for the first time, Obi stepped into her world. Servants bowed, security guards opened doors. Jessica ran through the garden screaming joyfully. Obi stood frozen. Tina turned to him. "You asked me once where I get money from," she said, smiling through tears. "Well, now you know." Obi shook his head. "I still can't believe this is real." "It's real," Tina said. "And it's yours now, too." They embraced, and that night, for the first time in years, Obi didn't sleep on a mattress on the floor. He slept beside Tina, with Jessica curled between them. Safe, full, and finally, home. The next morning in Banana Island, Mansion Obi stood in the garden, dressed in a crisp white caftan, freshly pressed by a servant he never imagined he'd have. His hands were folded behind his back, watching as Jessica chased butterflies, giggling, her feet bare in the soft grass. From the glass doors, Tina stepped out holding a cup of tea. No silk robe, no diamonds, just a simple white dress and her hair wrapped in a scarf. But Obi had never seen her more beautiful. "You're quiet," Tina said, handing him the cup. He smiled. "I'm still trying to understand how I moved from pushing a wheelbarrow to this." Tina chuckled softly. "I'm still trying to understand how I moved from being followed by cameras to being fulfilled by a little girl's laughter." They stood there in silence for a moment. Then Tina touched his arm. "Are you ready?" He nodded. "Let's do it." 2 hours later, a fleet of black SUVs moved through the dusty roads of Alaba Market. The convoy slowed to a stop, causing a commotion among traders, bystanders, and customers. Everyone rushed out. Some recognized the vehicles from the day Tina revealed her identity. Some still whispered, "She's back." This time, Tina wasn't alone. Obi stepped out, holding Jessica's hand, dressed like royalty. Tina wore a stunning red Ankara dress, and her presence silenced even the harshest gossips. The market stopped. For the first time, they weren't coming to beg. They were coming to bless. Tina stood on a raised platform in front of Mama Sweet's buka. A microphone had been set up. A few cameras were discreetly filming, only to document what was about to happen. "Many of you judged me when I came here with dust on my feet and hunger in my belly," she began. "And that was the point. I came to see how the world treats those who have nothing to offer." Silence. She turned, smiled, and reached into her purse. I want to reward the few who passed the test. She pointed to an old woman who once gave her a sachet of water when she was coughing on the street. You, Mama Nike. Come forward. The old woman trembled. Me? Tina nodded. She handed her a brown envelope. 5 million. Naira. To start your food business properly, no strings attached. The market gasped. She pointed to a young boy who once stopped and said, Sorry, Auntie, when she felt 2 million Naira for your education. She turned to Mama Sweet. I know you pushed me away, but I forgive you, and I believe in second chances. She handed her 2 million Naira as well, to build a proper buka with tiles, fans, and dignity. Mama Sweet fell to her knees weeping. By the time Tina was done, she had given out over 50 million Naira in total. The air was electric. People cheered, some cried, some shouted, God bless you, Tina. But Obi, he just watched her. And he knew this woman had not only changed his life, she was changing the world. Later that evening, back in the mansion, the three of them stood in the garden. A servant handed Obi a small box. He looked at Tina, then he knelt. Tina, he said, his voice steady, you once said you wanted to see if anyone could love without knowing what you had. Well, I didn't just fall in love with what you had. I fell in love with what you lacked. Attention, peace, truth. Jessica held her breath. Tina's eyes filled. I may not have a palace, Obi continued, but I can promise you loyalty, peace, and love that doesn't depend on headlines. He opened the box. A simple silver ring. Will you marry me, Tina? Tina covered her mouth. Then she knelt beside him. Yes, 1,000 times yes, Jessica screamed. You're getting married. 1 week later, social media exploded with photos. Billionaire Tina weds wheelbarrow pusher. Obi the humble hero, from market dust to mansion love. Jessica's new mom is a billionaire. But Tina didn't care about trends. What mattered most was peace, truth, and love. 3 days after the wedding, a private jet took off from Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos. On board, Tina, Obi, and Jessica. Destination, Dubai. Jessica stared wide-eyed at the clouds. Mummy, are we in heaven? Tina smiled. No, my baby, but it feels close. As they landed, Obi held Tina's hand. You know, he whispered, I was mocked for loving a beggar. Tina laughed. And I was mocked for being too rich to find real love. They looked at Jessica, asleep with her teddy bear, then at each other. No words were needed. They had passed the test. They had found what money could never buy. Kindness, family, and a love deeper than disguise. Moral of the story, true kindness does not recognize status, and real love looks beyond appearances. In a world driven by wealth and image, it is the heart that gives freely, without expecting anything in return, that is most valuable. This story teaches us that humility, compassion, and sincerity will always be more powerful than riches or reputation, and those who love purely are the ones truly worthy of reward. We hope this story touched your heart. If it did, please let us know. What lesson did you learn? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We truly love reading your reflections. And guess what? Another powerful, inspiring story is coming your way in just a few days. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it the moment it drops. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it with your family and friends. Thank you for being part of this beautiful journey with us. God bless you richly.